West here, reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to particularly try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
Friday morning, are you ready to go? Here we are, the Bill Press Show. Yep, on this Friday morning, May 9, here in our nation's capital, we're up early with all of you. I'm ready to bring you up to date on the news of the day, such as it is here from Washington, D.C. Take a look around the country and around the globe, wrap it all up, bring it to you, and then open up the phones and, open up the social media to give you a chance to comment and tell us what you think about it all. Lots going on this Friday on Free Speech TV and, of course, on our video stream worldwide at Talker, Tawkr TV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. President Obama winding up a 3-day fundraising tour, hopscotching around California. Yesterday, he went from Los Angeles down to San Diego, a fundraiser there, and then up to San Jose for another fundraiser. Overnight in San Jose, and today he'll be giving a speech about energy at a Walmart in the San Jose region. Yes, at a Walmart, because Walmart gets 25% of its energy from solar energy. They're a leader in that field, and the president wants to salute them for it. Here in Washington, D.C., the partisan divide continues, of course. Yesterday, with a very Republican partisan vote, the House voted to create a special committee to investigate Benghazi, even though there have already been 15 committee hearings by 5 different committees, plus a complete investigation led by Admiral Mike Mullen, and 25,000 documents released by the administration on Benghazi. But this is all about politics, folks. We know that they're even raising money for campaigns around the country based on this Benghazi committee. It's all politics. Anyhow, we got that and a lot more to talk about right here, so get in the conversation. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Let's go.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful?
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university. And,
yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
President Obama in California today going to Walmart. What? Going to Walmart? Yeah, we'll tell you why. Hey, good morning, everybody. This is one thing Walmart's actually doing that's pretty good. It is, are you ready for this? Friday. Yahoo! It is Friday, May 9. Our favorite day around the Bill Press Show. Yours too. There's another Alleluia, and here we go. We made it through another week, guys.
And it feels like Tuesday.
Woo-hoo! And Peter made it through 2 days of the week. I don't know, man. Just greater love than this no man hath.
I could get used to this.
Than to work 2 days a week. Well, anyhow, so good to see you this morning. Wherever you happen to be in this great land of ours, we are here with you. We are here for you. And we're going to tell you what's going on today. Not only that, give you a chance, your only chance in the morning, to sound off about the news of the day and figure out what it all means to you, to your family, and to your community. That's what we do for 3 hours every day, and we have a lot of fun on a Friday particularly, which we will this Friday, of course, ending the show with a little beer fest. Yeah, I mean, I know that's what most of you are thinking about. What are the good beers for spring and for summer? We'll let you know, and a whole lot of other stuff today. And then you can give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. You can send us your comments on Twitter. Maybe your favorite beers at BP Show, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Now, normally on Friday, we miss one or two members, but when we have alcohol on the menu, everybody shows up. Peter Ogburn came back from New Orleans for this. Yeah, I mean.
There's not enough alcohol in New Orleans.
There's no beer in New Orleans, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Alicia Murphy here as always. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Happy Friday.
And Alicia Cruz is there. Not too busy right now, but you can make her busy by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS. She's on the phones. And she'd rather just take a nap. No. Cyprian Bolding, he's always busy because he's got to keep all those cameras going.
That's right.
And pick up the right shots and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So there we go.
It's a lot of work making us look pretty.
Yes, and it's also, a lot of work. It's also a lot of work running for president, and you got to do it retail, not wholesale. It's one vote at a time. John F. Kennedy learned that lesson early on. And so did Larry King. Larry King last night being interviewed by, Seth Meyers, tells a very funny story I'd never heard before about how he first met JFK.
Early 1958, decided we'd never seen Palm Beach. So we'll take a ride up to Palm Beach. And I was driving, had a beat-up convertible, me and another guy, two guys in the back. It's a Sunday morning, 10 o'clock, a beautiful, quiet Sunday morning in Palm Beach. And I'm driving, and we're looking at the homes, fantastic mansions. And I look up, and suddenly there's a guy parked in a car, in a convertible, and I'm going about 10 miles an hour, and I hit him. We're the only two people on the road. So he gets out of the car, and he goes like this, How could you hit me? So I said, Reg, yeah, I'm sorry, I was looking up at house. I apologize. I said, you want to exchange licenses or something? We got 2 little bumpers. He says, no, I want all 4 of you raise your hand. He said, I'm Senator John Kennedy of Massachusetts. I'm going to run for president in 2 years. Once you all swear you'll vote for me. We voted for him.
That's great. And that election was so close, that could have made the difference. And that wasn't even in Chicago.
That's one way to get votes.
One way to get votes. Run into him.
Now, look, I don't want to say that this means anything to 2016, but I did see Hillary Clinton standing in the middle of the street,
right,
waiting to get hit by a car. So she could get some votes.
I'll tell you, my favorite Larry King story is at the 2000 convention in Los Angeles. I was still doing Crossfire then, still at CNN. And we were hanging outside the trailer one day in the media lot, and a couple of us just BSing with Larry King. And somehow we got around to taxes, and Larry said, you know what? I paid $2 million in taxes this year. And he said, and you know what that tells me? And I'm thinking, oh, man, here we go, right? I was just waiting for some right-wing rant, right? Yeah. And I said, no, I don't know. And I said, that says to me, I had a good year.
That's like King.
That was the attitude. That's the right attitude.
So he's happy to pay his taxes, too.
He was happy to pay his taxes. If he made $2 million, that means he probably made, 15 or something, whatever.
Sure.
Yeah, because by the time you take all the deductions, and by the time he pays all of his alimony.
That's a good point.
Yeah. What, 6 wives or something? All look the same?
Yeah.
They have a club, his ex-wives.
Yeah, the Larry King ex-wife club?
They do.
Yeah.
They do. They get together, and they there's famous stories about this, where they all talk about how he picked them up and how he met them. And he used the same line for all of them.
Oh, no.
They're having dinner, and he says, do you feel a little chemistry here? He's that same line on every.
That's his move, huh?
On every one of them.
Oh,
That's his
no.
move, yeah. And I've tried that. It doesn't work for me.
Maybe you just have to be like King.
I have to pay $2 million in taxes anyhow. Where are we going here? Susan Page is going to be joining us a little bit later in this hour. We'll have reporters in today from Huffington Post and National Journal. And yes, we will take a look at some more favorite beers for all of you. We do that as a public service. And a special committee on Benghazi, just what we need, like a case of syphilis. We'll be right through the news of the day, but here he is.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories. Here we go on a Friday. A couple of other stories making news. Football season is upon us. Last night, the NFL draft got underway. The number 1 pick to the Houston Texans, Jadeveon Clowney from the University of South Carolina, monster defensive player. The big story of the night, however, was that Johnny Football, Johnny Manziel, Mr. Heisman Trophy winner, didn't get picked until the 22nd pick. He went to the Browns. Johnny Manziel out of Texas A&M. Quarterback Blake Bortles from the University of Central Florida went number 3 to the Jaguars. A big surprise there for followers of football that thought Manziel was going to go a lot higher. And they kept the camera on Manziel all night.
Really?
He was not happy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he legitimately could have gone number 1. Some people thought he might have gone number 1.
Right. I must tell you, I find this whole NFL pick every year just such a total colossal bore. A total nothing.
Here's the interesting. Here's the. Not that I'm one to quote Roger Goodell very often. He says, every year at this time, every NFL team gets a little bit better. It's interesting to see who's going to be playing and how these guys make the transition.
It's all about money.
You're right. It is all about money.
Yeah.
They made some millionaires last night, that's for sure.
Oh, that's for damn sure. Yeah, absolutely. A stunning discovery in China as a group of miners were excavating a section of an old mine and found a man who had been there for 17 years, abandoned after an earthquake that had caused large sections of the tunnel he was working in to collapse. He was in there working with a crew of 79 men. The other 78 perished, and he has been alive for 17 years.
What's he been doing?
Wow.
Eating them?
Well, no. Here's the thing: they have a procedure in place in case these guys get stuck for a long period of time. They keep stockpiles of rice and clean water.
Yeah, with 17
in
years
these mines. He rationed it out.
Wow.
I don't know if he ate the other people. I'm not saying that he did, but he did manage to stay alive, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
17 years?
17 years.
Good Lord.
That's unreal.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Hadn't brushed his teeth or combed his hair.
I'm
Probably.
sure he was a mess.
Oh, yeah.
And here's a little bit of a better story. Uber, we all love Uber. You can get the Uber
Absolutely.
black car or the Uber X. They have announced that they are releasing Uber Family in New York City. It's a service that caters to people with families, so these cars are going to come
Big
with
enough
car
to pick
seats.
up with car seats.
With
That's
car
cool.
seats already. Yeah, that's always a problem if you don't have a car seat or a booster to take a cab. Uber Family is going to start out in New York. It's going to be a $10 extra surcharge from what you would normally pay. But that's going to be kicking off next week.
Uber's a great service. Yeah, I used it last weekend.
Yeah, I love
around
it.
the White House. Correspondent Center. Yep, absolutely. Okay, Peter, thank you. Yes, indeed. All right, where do we start this morning? We start with the big news on, and this crazy thing that the House did yesterday on Benghazi. Yes, indeed. By a mostly party line vote, not entirely. Some Democrats went along with this. I don't know why, just because they're cowards. But the House voted 232 to 186 to establish this Select Committee on Benghazi, which John Boehner says is, number one, necessary, and number two, will be totally fair and totally above politics. Yeah, if you believe that, right, I am an astronaut. Here's John Boehner.
I think the 7-5 split is eminently fair, frankly fairer than her global warming committee that she set up.
That really speaks to what this committee. That's the way the committee is set up. 7-5, 7 Republicans, 5 Democrats. That tells you right away how lopsided the committee is and what it's going to be all about. It's going to be another Darrell Issa sideshow, even though Boehner insists it's not. And Cantor says, of course, Cantor blames this on President Obama.
This investigation would not be necessary had the Obama administration come clean.
Blah, blah, blah. Look, first of all, not necessary. Totally not necessary. Just for the numbers again. Remember, there have been 13 different hearings on Benghazi in the House and the Senate by 5 different committees, 25,000 plus pages of documents and emails have been released by the administration about Benghazi. And there was a complete investigation for the administration led by Admiral Mike Mullen, former head of the Joint Chiefs. All of those have looked at Benghazi inside and out. We know what happened. We know the consequences. The focus ought to be on trying to get the people who attacked our embassy, our consulate in Benghazi. And instead, Republicans from the beginning have used this as a political football. I remind you again, the night of the attack, while the attack was still underway, before we even knew that Ambassador Chris Stevens had been killed in Benghazi, one of the 4 Americans killed there, that very evening, Mitt Romney put out a statement on Benghazi blaming President Obama and accusing him of siding with the terrorists who attacked our consulate in Benghazi. It's been a political football ever since then. And the latest is the creation of this special committee, which, again, allegedly is above politics. Oh, yeah? Republicans are raising money on it. The National Republican Congressional Committee put out an email asking their supporters, we mentioned this yesterday, inviting people to become a Benghazi watchdog by sending a check to the NRCC. There's a committee raising money on Ted Cruz's behalf, saying we need to help Ted Cruz get to the bottom of this Benghazi stuff. There's some guy out in Arizona running for Congress. He's got a letter out saying, I want to go to Washington and be part of this Washington investigation of Benghazi. That's what this is all about. Elijah Cummings, the ranking Democrat on the House Oversight Committee under Darrell Issa, which has held probably 8 of those 13 hearings on Benghazi, He pointed out this fundraising yesterday, raising hell about it.
They have been using the deaths of these 4 Americans for political campaign fundraising. I call on the Speaker of the House to end that process right now.
So here's the question. Now we know that there is this committee, 232 to 186. What should Democrats do? There are 2 schools of thought here. One is, well, first of all, Nancy Pelosi has asked that the hearing, if there be a committee, that the committee be totally balanced, the same number of Democrats, same number of Republicans. Boehner rejected that. So now there's only one choice. The choice is, do you appoint Democrats to serve on this committee, 7-5, or do you boycott the whole committee? Congressman Henry Waxman, good friend of mine from California, has said, no, I don't like this committee. We don't need it. But if there's going to be a committee, we got to be there so we can ask. We got to be there, and we can ask questions, and we can get our point of view out, and we can make sure that at least our thinking on Benghazi is heard by the American people. On the other hand, Congressman James Clyburn from South Carolina, another good friend, who was in the studio here just 2 days ago and said this on our air. James Clyburn says, no way. Don't appoint any Democrats to that committee. As he colorfully put it yesterday, he would refuse to participate. He says, I am not bringing a noose to my own hanging. Man, I got to tell you, you can't say it any better than that. I think James Clyburn is absolutely right. I would say, let's expose these Republicans, expose this for the political kangaroo court that it is, and have no Democrats on it. To me, that's the best way to go, because then it is clearly a total Republican panel. It's clearly a political game. Anything they come out with, anything they say, anything they conclude, any of their findings, any of their accusations will all be dismissed as pure Republican bunk, pure Republican propaganda. If Democrats are on that committee, then it's going to look like, to most people, an official House committee that comes up with more accusations and more conspiracy theories about Benghazi. I ask you, what do you think? Yes or no? Participate in this committee or boycott the committee? 866-55-PRESS. We've got to make a decision right here on a Friday morning about what to do. This is very important.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You make it sound very easy to take these 90-degree turns in your career. You went from engineering to law. But there's an awful lot of people at that age who feel they're on a track, they've invested time in learning a career, and they need to see it through to the end, or maybe their parents are pushing them to stay in one route. What is your advice for a young person?
Stay away from your parents.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
My mom is a pretty spectacular human being. We essentially came to the United States as refugees. And that is when I really got to understand who my mom was as a person. Being a refugee in a foreign country, you would think that it would affect you so much. It was like my mom, nothing changed for my mom. What was really at her core and her center was always being with her kids and getting to spend time with them and making sure that they were okay and making sure that they could still go out and play soccer. I knew that if my goal was to go to Liberia and to work on economic justice so that, kids could go to school and have access to a doctor if they have malaria, that if I bet on their moms, we win.
I think I just come from a lineage of kick-ass women is all I can say. My grandmother came to this country from Mexico as a single mom with 5 children. And I, have an amazing mother who had 3 children, was going to school, working full-time. I mean, almost my story. But she did that and got her bachelor's degree at 40. And so I had a great role model. When I came home and told my mom I was pregnant, her response to me wasn't, your life is over. Her response to me is, well, I want a plan. You need to, let me know what you're going to do about this because you're now responsible for somebody else.
I was the first one in my family to go to college, and my parents were very proud of it. They both had to work. My mom in a factory and my dad in the supermarket, and I was their success story. However, on graduation day, they said, are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be an engineer? You're going to be a businessman? What are you going to, lawyer? I said, I'm going to join the Peace Corps. And they said, what? My parents were very much opposed to this, and it was very difficult.
How much pressure did they put on you?
Tremendous pressure. Up until we were leaving from O'Hare Airport for me to go to Peru, my mother questioning me, like, where is Peru? You've never been out of the country. What do you know? Do they have doctors? Do they speak English there? What are you going to eat? You like my cooking? I said, Mom, I'm going to be a pioneer. Why do you always have to be the pioneer? Let them do it. Let them come back, and then you go. I said, no, I want to be the first to go.
I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, so there was a lot of gang activity, and one of my friends actually was murdered on a basketball court when a 15-year-old child shot him in the back of the head. And I was just hopeless. And my mom actually, she brought me to a place of empathy for the kids who were involved in actually murdering him, because my mom sort of said, look, where do you think those kids are coming from? And then she said, so if you're angry about it, do something. Actually change the way this world works.
This is the Bill Press Show.
27 minutes after the hour. Now that they've created this special committee on Benghazi, should Democrats take part in it or not? Yes or no? By the way, I think Congressman Eliot Engel from New York made an important point yesterday on this when debating this. And he said, so 4 Americans died and Republicans claimed that the White House lied about Benghazi. 4,000 Americans died in Iraq. And we went to war in Iraq based on a great big fat lie that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. How many investigations have they held about Iraq? They haven't looked into Iraq at all. 4,000 Americans died. That's, again, just proving the point. This is all about 2014 politics. Don't take part in that committee, I think. Lori is in Louisville, Texas. Hello, Lori.
Hi, Bill.
Hi.
I believe that if the Republicans haven't gotten to the bottom of it, they're never going to. And that proves it is not about getting to the bottom of what happened in Benghazi. It's about politics, and we need to be rising above it, say absolutely no, we're not going to have anything to do with that.
With the committee, right.
With the committee and with anything that they're doing, no, have nothing to do with them.
And what about the fact if there are witnesses and everything, there won't be any Democrats, it'll all be one-sided?
It'll be all one-sided anyway, because the Democrats' opinions will never really be heard. I mean, they're going to come to the same conclusion whether Democrats are there or not.
I think you're right, absolutely. And you know what? Yeah, if the Democrats try to ask any questions, this guy will be Trey Gowdy. He'll be like Darrell Issa. Remember what he did to Elijah Cummings? He cut off his microphone. They don't want to hear from Democrats.
This
More calls
is the
coming
Bill
up.
Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I talk to undergraduates and graduate students who are desperate to go out and start something and build something and be the one to come up with that silver bullet solution. And I just want to say, slow down.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
Most of the people you're talking to who want to come into
the social change space? Are they prepared?
If you're early in your career, there's a couple of really important things to do. The first one is just to shut the hell up and don't talk for about 5 years and work really, really hard. The only way you're going to be given more difficult things to do is by solving the ones you're already given. And if you're somebody who's always complaining or wants to be promoted above where they really are, you can't learn enough to start to take on a greater pool of responsibilities.
Advice you would give a person coming out of college is go work for other people, make your mistakes on their dime.
That sounds like me, absolutely.
It does sound like you.
And you know who that came from is one of my board members, Eric Buttline. Eric had seen me start a few companies as a young kid. I mean, I started my first real company when I was 16. And Eric said, "Chid, do me a favor. I know you have this thing in your head that you think you're this great entrepreneur, but like go work for somebody for a little while and just learn how things are supposed to be done. And when you're done with that, let's have another conversation about, you know, your next venture."
And I think another thing to remember, and this is something that I've really only learned in the past couple of years, is that although the problems are urgent and so important for us to address, I need to have more patience. I'm not going to solve those problems on my own. You're not going to solve those problems on your own. I'm an apprentice in all of this. You know, I'm an apprentice in life. I'm an apprentice in problem solving. I'm not going to change the world until I'm at least 65. That's my goal at this point.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org. to let us know your thoughts.
Tune into the Thom Hartmann Program, a live broadcast featuring the nation's #1 progressive talk show host. Phones open at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Free Speech TV.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
All right, 34 minutes after the hour, Leader Pelosi has a big decision to make now that they've formed this kangaroo court called a special committee on Benghazi. Should Democrats even take part in it, or should they just leave those chairs empty and make it look like what I think it really is, a Republican sideshow, a Republican circus? I say stay the hell away from it. That's what James Clyburn, I know, has recommended to Speaker Pelosi, or Leader Pelosi. She'll be Speaker again someday.
Speaker of hearts.
And I know that's what Congresswoman Donna Edwards has recommended to Nancy Pelosi as well. And I think they are absolutely right. Don't play along with this game. Expose it. Expose them, I believe, for what they are. I understand some very smart people are making the opposite argument, that we got to be there because we have to be able to cross-examine the witnesses and support witnesses on our side and all of that kind of stuff. But I think you make a stronger point by just staying away. Peter.
We are on Twitter at BP Show, if you want to join in the conversation. Let us know how you feel about that. That's what Jim Irwin did. He says the Benghazi panel is just another waste of taxpayer money. And Cordell Garrett says Benghazi is going to be the Republican Party's Waterloo. Just watch. We've heard that before.
Yeah, that's
under
what
different circumstances.
That's what some people said was going to be the case of that was going to be Obama was going to be President Obama's Waterloo. By the way, on that point about a waste of time and money, the New York Times, in his lead editorial this morning, makes the point that this House of Representatives, a Republican-controlled House, right? They won't pass a serious jobs bill. They won't raise the minimum wage. They won't do anything about immigration reform. But they think they can earn their pay for the rest of the year by exposing non-existent malfeasance on the part of the Obama administration over Benghazi. And the resolution that they passed yesterday includes authorizing, quote, such sums as may be necessary. In other words, blank check.
Yeah.
They authorize spending as much money as they want to continue this sideshow and this circus. Why should we be any part of it? 866-55-PRESS out in Chicago on WCPT. Hello, Brett. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Yeah, what do you think?
So I think they should boycott it. And not only should they boycott it, they should tell all the witnesses to boycott it, because guess who we got on our side? Eric Holder. They can't go after anybody if he won't press charges. I mean, we can have everybody boycott it.
Yeah, that's not bad. I was just thinking, of course, you made the right point, is if witnesses refuse to show up, right, saying this is a rigged result, right, we're not going to testify, they could subpoena them, they could vote them in contempt and then it's up to Eric Holder whether or not he follows through, right?
Correct, and he's on our side. And if we just say, we don't need to play with this game, we're done with it, it's over with, we're done.
Yeah. I hope he's on our side. Sometimes I wonder about Eric Holder. Excellent point, Brett. I appreciate the call. We'll find out. Because this other crazy thing they did this week, which was, again, another total waste is holding Lois Lerner in contempt of Congress for failing to answer their questions on the IRS. Again, they've been trying to prove that the IRS only focused on conservative groups who wanted a tax-exempt status and didn't do anything about liberal groups or progressive groups. That's been investigated. That was proven to be absolutely not true. And besides, some of these were political groups that were trying to cheat on their taxes. They were trying to claim that they were nonprofit, above the board, purely educational groups, and they were out there supporting campaigns and doing all kinds of political work. So they were tax cheats, right? And the IRS was going after tax cheats on the right and on the left. But my point is, they hold Lois Lerner in contempt of Congress for taking the fifth. Under the U.S. Constitution, she's got a right to do that. Maybe she shouldn't have. She's got a constitutional right to do that. Now it's up to Eric Holder whether he presses charges based on that contempt of Congress thing. If there's no way he should, and he'd better not. or else I'll go down there personally and picket his office. I've already called for him to be fired anyhow, so I don't know what more I could do.
What do you have to lose at this point?
What more I could do. On this special Benghazi committee, Chuck is up in Winterport, Maine. Hello, Chuck.
Good morning, Bill.
Good morning.
I love you and your show.
Thank you.
I say boycott.
Don't you think? Got to.
Absolutely. And perhaps meet in a separate room, invite C-SPAN.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Sure, yeah.
Separate room, and have it covered by C-SPAN, and where all the objections.
Yeah.
And particularly how these consulates and embassies need more protection.
Yes, and how Republicans did not voted against more security for our embassies and consulates. Yes.
That's one of the things that I think has been lost in all this, because the Republicans have made such a big deal out of blame, and no one spent enough time to say, okay, what went wrong here? What can we do better to make sure that that doesn't happen again? We did it after 9/11.
Yeah.
And we put in some measures that maybe don't make sense in hindsight, but a lot of measures that we're like, look, we need to get this problem fixed. We didn't blame George Bush and say George Bush put this country at risk the way that they're doing with Obama.
No. Well, that's big difference between the way Democrats and Republicans came together after September 11, 2001, and how Republicans just went on the political attack after September 11, 2012.
Like, can you imagine a Democrat putting out a fundraising email
on
September 11th?
September 11? Oh, they'd be run out
against George Bush.
Yeah, they'd be run out of this town.
Yeah, you're right.
Out of this town. Anita is in San Antonio. Hello, Anita. Good morning.
Go Spurs.
Yeah.
Go Spurs. I think this is I think we should boycott. This is such a farce, and one of the reasons why, if this committee is set up anything like ISIS committee, it's not that Democrats will be at a disadvantage in numbers. They will not have subpoena power.
Mm-hmm.
They won't be able to review documentation, so they can't prepare. There's just a number of things that are just, this is just a setup.
Well, yeah, and you can tell that by the way they react. I mean, this Trey Gowdy, the guy that they're pumping up as the new chairman of this thing, he was asked about the 7-5 split, and he said, he said, hey, elections have consequences. In other words, we're in charge, we rule, we're going to decide. Democrats, tough luck. I mean, that was his response. He said, quote unquote, election, which they do have consequences, but this is supposed to be above politics. You can't have it both ways. He said that this investigation, this issue transcends politics. But then on the makeup of the committee, he says politics rules. Yeah, these guys, they just talk out of both sides of the mouth. I mean, like, they can face it. And again, look at that letter out there asking Americans to become Benghazi watchdogs. They said this is going to be a national investigation. We want you to become Benghazi watchdogs. Just send us a check. I guess you're a bigger watchdog if you send a bigger check, right?
That's right.
Maybe you get...
Give me even more watchdoggier, I guess.
Whatever. In Schaumburg, Illinois. Hello, Tim. Hey, good morning.
Hi.
Hi. What's up?
I think they should do both. I think they
How do you mean?
Send the 5 Democrats, and then on the day that they grill Hillary and after they kangaroo court her, all the committee Democrats should walk out in unison and parade past the press corps folks that they previously notified about their action.
Well, they could do that. That's another way to handle it. I just, I mean, I like Chuck's idea. I think you're giving them too much credit by even showing up. I think you legitimize the committee by even showing up, Tim. I got to say. I mean, I like Chuck's idea of having a hearing just to touch on that again for a second, in a different place. And if the problem is that Republicans could refuse a room for them to meet in. Do you know what you do with that? You go to a hotel nearby.
Yeah.
Or you go out on the mall.
Yeah, sure.
Or you go out on the on the lawn in front of Congress and hold an outdoor
Tell
hearing.
them why.
Yeah. And tell the American people why we're here, because Republicans won't even give us a room to meet in. That's how lopsided this whole thing is.
Yeah.
I think we got the picture. I think we got some consensus here. We'll have to make sure that Leader Pelosi knows what the American people feel about this. Don't be part of this committee. More calls coming up. Sorry we can't get to all of you, but we have an important date with Susan Page from USA Today next.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
Yeah, I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
12 minutes before the top of the hour, Friday morning. It's Susan Page time on the Bill Press Show. Every Friday we don't take anything for granted, but we love when Susan is available on a Friday, as she is this morning. You'll hear chuckling there. Washington Bureau Chief for USA Today and a great friend. Hello, Susan. Good morning.
Good morning, Bill.
Oh my gosh, where do we start? I guess we have to start with the biggest news of the week, which is Monica Lewinsky's back. Huh?
You know, don't you feel like we've gone back to the 1990s? I mean, not only did Monica Lewinsky speak out this week, but we also had a return of a series of investigations by Republicans on the Hill against the president.
Yeah, here we go. Right, exactly. Yeah, I think it was Jimmy Fallon or something who said, Monica says we ought to bury the beret and burn the dress. Yeah, we did that, Monica, 15 years ago, right? But the big news. I think the two big stories were the climate change report, which came out, and the Benghazi panel. Let's start with climate change. Got pretty scary stuff in that report. Anything going to happen as a result of it?
Isn't that stunning that we could say yes to both? Stunning things in that report.
Yeah.
Man, does that sound alarming? Will anything happen? I don't think so. And I wonder how long that goes on. Because of course, President Obama and Nancy Pelosi and others on the Hill made a big effort on climate change early on, and his first sermon went nowhere, has gone just exactly that direction since then.
Right. No, and the president speaking today again in California on energy and announcing a couple of more executive actions, which everybody says, that's all he can do, but it's not enough. But that's kind of what they're limited to.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's amazing how something that is in fact a question of science has become just another partisan tool that people divide along partisan lines on whether they believe in climate change.
And you wonder what it's going to take. I mean, a story in the New York Times, I'm sure you saw yesterday morning, front page, about in South Beach, Florida, they're already, with the sea level is up so high that they're already getting flooding almost on a daily basis down there, right? And yet they're still the climate change deniers. So see what happens. Well, on the Benghazi panel, the big question, Susan, is whether, now that's been created, whether Democrats should even participate in the panel. Democrats just seem to be split right down the middle on that. What's going to happen?
Well, I don't know what Democrats will decide to do. I think they are trying to make a calculation on whether they're better off being in the minority on a panel so that every vote can be, 7-5?
7-5, right.
Or if it undermines the credibility of the panel if they don't participate at all. Where do you think they'll come out? Bill?
Well, I don't know, but James Clyburn was the former whip, was here in the studio with us a couple of days ago. And he said he has strongly recommended, like 3 times, to Nancy Pelosi that they just boycott the panel altogether. Colorfully yesterday he said, "I don't want to bring a noose to my own hanging," which I thought was pretty strong way of putting it. But on the other hand, Henry Waxman, who's close to the leader, has said, "No, we've got to be there because we want to be able to cross-examine the witnesses."
Well, and you could see both their cases. I was at a Christian Science Monitor breakfast with Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the DNC chairman, on Wednesday, and she also said that she thinks they should boycott it. So, as you say, there's a divide in the party over it. I do think Republicans are running something of a risk by focusing on Benghazi when that does definitely excites their base, but for most Americans, there are a bunch of issues they think are more important.
I would agree, and I often wonder, I mean, there's no doubt, I think the Obamacare, Benghazi, the IRS, those are all meant to pump up the base, right? But I don't know whether this base needs any more pumping up. I just think, I think they're pretty...
They seem to be ready to turn out in November as it is. But 6 months away, maybe they're trying to hedge the
as
bet.
long as Obama's in the White House, I think they'll be motivated. Now, I know you talked to, I'm always interested in your big interview of the week. You talked to Lynn Cheney this week. He has a new book out on James Madison. Huh?
I'll tell you the most surprising thing. I did not think this would be a real quick magnet to interview Lynn Cheney about her new book on James Madison. And it was a very interesting interview, but, it wasn't about Monica Lewinsky and the bluegrass. And for a period of more than an hour, it was the most popular item on the USA Today website.
No kidding.
And when I saw that, I thought, wow, there's a glitch on the website. But and then I checked the link to make sure the link was actually working. And it was. And so this restores your faith in Americans' interest in our founding fathers.
Yeah, really. So you talked to her about James Madison, not about Dick Cheney and not about Iraq and not about Halliburton, right? It was...
Well, I talked to her first about James Madison because she has this new book out. But then I also asked her about Dick Cheney, who in fact dropped by to say hello during the interview.
Whoa.
She said that, he looks incredible with his transplanted heart. She said that he plans to be active in 14 and 16 and speaking out. And I asked her about Liz Cheney.
Yes.
And would she run again? And she said she sure hopes so and that she would be a great candidate. And she would, if she ran, she'd be running from Wyoming.
From Wyoming?
Because, there was some talk she'd really go to Virginia resident.
Right.
So she said, I definitely think Liz should run again. She'd be great. And I said from Wyoming or Virginia, not meaning that to be snarky. And she said Wyoming.
Whoa. Oh, that surprises me. I thought for sure she'd come back to Virginia. So,
Yeah.
all right. Now, is our sister Mary going to be campaigning alongside of her?
Yeah. There I did not go.
I understand why, but
is still open.
it is indeed. Hey, Susan, have a great weekend, and thanks so much for your time this morning.
Hey, Bill, you too.
Always fun and always great, very interesting and very informative. She never knows the Capitol better than anybody I know. Susan Page, USA Today, Washington Bureau Chief, usatoday.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Bauhaus was one of the most definitive design movements of the modern age, reaching its peak between the two world wars. The word Bauhaus, loosely translated from German, means house of construction or school of building. Bauhaus was a new type of art school. Historically, European art academies taught each design subject separately. The Bauhaus offered foundation training in many art and design disciplines. They believed in variety. Understanding mass production was part of the curriculum, and the school sought to develop students who could unify art with craft while embracing new technology. It was also the beginning of the art school as an alternative way of life. Germany at that time was a pretty conservative place. And before the Nazis said "Nein" to the Bauhaus, it was arguably the most celebrated art school in the world. Bauhaus thinkers believed the world needed to be fundamentally rethought. Unnecessary ornamentation was out. Minimalism was in. Good design required simplicity and geometric purity. One of the best known icons of Bauhaus design is the cantilevered chair. Designed by someone named Breuer, it was inspired by the steel tubes of his bicycle, and ultimately led to the first lightweight, mass-produced metal chair. Despite his success, Breuer concluded that eventually chairs would become obsolete, and everyone would soon be sitting on supportive columns of air. Bauhaus was all about innovation and inspiration. Nowadays, Bauhaus influences can be seen everywhere, from road signs and graphic design to big windows and even bigger buildings. In architecture, the international style, as it became known, influenced skylines the world over. Bauhaus was about ideas, reform, exploration and vitality, about making more tidy sense of the rapidly evolving world around us, and giving us more cool stuff for our apartments.
Tune into the Thom Hartmann Program, a live broadcast featuring the nation's #1 progressive talk show host. Phones open at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Free Speech TV.
All right, wrapping up our first hour here with a lot more coming up. Sabrina Siddiqui will be here in studio with us from the Huffington Post in the next hour. We'll also be talking to Emma Roller from the National Journal. And then don't forget, later in the morning, after we visit with John Nichols from The Nation magazine, we will be sampling the best beers for spring and summer. All good reasons to stay around.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Friday morning, are you ready to go? Here we are, the Bill Press Show. Yep, on this Friday morning, May 9, here in our nation's capital, we're up early with all of you. I'm ready to bring you up to date on the news of the day, such as it is here from Washington, D.C. Take a look around the country and around the globe, wrap it all up, bring it to you, and then open up the phones and, open up the social media to give you a chance to comment and tell us what you think about it all. Lots going on this Friday on Free Speech TV and, of course, on our video stream worldwide at Talker, TAWKR TV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. President Obama winding up a 3-day fundraising tour, hopscotching around California. Yesterday, he went from Los Angeles down to San Diego, fundraiser there, and then up to San Jose for another fundraiser. Overnight in San Jose, and today he'll be giving a speech about energy at a Walmart in the San Jose region. Yes, at a Walmart, because Walmart gets 25% of its energy from solar energy. They're a leader in that field, and the president wants to salute them for it. Here in Washington, D.C., the partisan divide continues, of course. Yesterday, with a very Republican partisan vote, the House voted to create a special committee to investigate Benghazi, even though there have already been 15 committee hearings by 5 different committees, plus a complete investigation led by Admiral Mike Mullen, and 25,000 documents released by the administration on Benghazi. But this is all about politics, folks. Folks, we know that they're even raising money for campaigns around the country based on this Benghazi committee. It's all politics. Anyhow, we got that and a lot more to talk about right here, so get in the conversation. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Let's go.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all of the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
President Obama in California today, and he's going out to Walmart. What? Yes, he's talking solar energy at Walmart, and Walmart gets 25% of its electricity from solar panels. So, right place to be for that issue. Hey, good morning, everybody. What do you say? It is Friday, May 9. Great to see you today. Ending the week with a bang. We got lots to talk about here on our Bill Press Show this morning. Coming to you live again from Washington, D.C., and bringing you the news of the day here in Washington, around the country, around the globe, and then hearing from you by phone at 866-55-PRESS, on Twitter at BP Show, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Good to have you with us this Friday morning, again, with lots to talk about. Got the whole team here: Peter Ogburn, Elisa Murphy. Hello, hello.
Friday. Hey, good morning.
Alicia Cruz on the phones, and Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, on the video cam for Free Speech TV. And for our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKR-TV. Before we get into the big news of the day, one of the big announcements this week is, and Peter, you did this yesterday, NBC has signed up to cover the Olympics through 2032.
Yeah.
That's called long-range planning.
You think? Yeah.
I think, right?
They certainly have that locked up.
I mean, like every year for the next... You would think that every year they'd have a little auction. Every 2 years they'd have an auction.
Yeah.
No. They've locked it up for the next 18 years.
It's never been on another channel, has it? I mean, it's mainly on NBC, but then they put
not
it
in
across
our
other
lifetime.
platforms. Yeah,
not in our lifetime.
Right.
Yeah, in the last century. But anyhow, Jimmy Fallon last night points out that wasn't the only big broadcasting a long-range deal signed this week.
That's right. NBC won the broadcast rights for the Olympics for the next 18 years. Meanwhile, CNN just won the broadcast rights to cover that missing plane for the next 18 years. Breaking news, it's still missing. We thought we saw it, but no.
You know, they will. They'll be covering that for the next 18 years. Is that what they're doing this morning?
They did. They were this morning. They were talking about how the family of the people in the flight want the data released.
Mm-hmm.
They were covering that flight.
How's that little submarine doing down there? Not finding very much.
Not so much. No.
No, indeed. Right. So coming up, we will talk first here. Emma Roller with the National Journal has been covering that's very sad situation, shocking situation in Nigeria. Sabrina Siddiqui will be here in studio with us from Huffington Post, John Nichols from The Nation in the next hour, and we end our Friday program with a little beer fest here with the best beers for spring and summer. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Advocates for the minimum wage have a new ally, and it comes in the form of the CEO of the largest fast food chain in the country, Subway. Their CEO, Fred DeLuca, gave an interview to CNBC earlier in the week, and he was asked about the minimum wage and whether or not he would be concerned if it was raised. And he said, quote, "I'm not concerned. Over the years, I've seen so many of these wage increases, I think it's normal. It won't have a negative impact, and that's what I'll tell my workers."
Well, good for him.
Yeah.
And by the way, when I saw that headline, the biggest fast food chain, I thought it would be McDonald's. Subway is bigger than McDonald's?
Subway is bigger, yeah. They have
Yeah,
more
I had no
stores.
idea.
Whoa.
Yeah. They have more
and better
stores.
for you.
Yeah. I mean, depending on what you choose. But yes, overall.
Well, they also have good salads, by the way, at Subway.
I've never had a Subway salad.
Oh, I used to get them a lot. No, they do. They have good salads, but most people get a sub.
Sure,
but their
sure.
subs are good, I think. There we go.
All right, onto the sport.
Good for Fred DeLuca.
Onto the sports desk. Last night it was playoff basketball, and the Miami Heat remain undefeated in the playoffs as they beat the Nets 94-82. That puts them at 2-0 in that series. Meanwhile, in the West, the San Antonio Spurs crushing the Portland Trailblazers, 114-97, the final score there. One interesting note, Thomas Robinson of the Portland Trailblazers showed up in San Antonio to play his game, was sitting in in the locker room, turned around and found a snake in his locker. He took a picture of it. He screamed first and then took a picture of it. It was not planted there by the San Antonio Spurs.
I saw that
It's one of
snake.
those things.
It's
between 3 and 4 feet long. It's not a small little snake.
Yeah.
It's a bull snake. It's not poisonous, but it's not something I would want to run across. Anywhere, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And this weekend, a very special
And
weekend.
the Wizards play tonight. The Wizards
play
and
tonight.
The Pacers.
They're tied 1-1 with the Indiana
Right.
Pacers. They're bringing it back home.
Go Wizards.
Big weekend this weekend at the University of Mississippi. They are having their commencement ceremonies, and because it is the 50th anniversary of the Freedom Summer and celebrating all of the legislative victories of the Civil Rights Movement, they have invited John Lewis to speak at the University of Mississippi because it's such a significant moment. C-SPAN will be there to film the speech, so you'll be able to watch it online and on C-SPAN. That's this weekend.
If you ask him the weather, hearing John Lewis speak is a treat and a thrill, historic. But this speech should be.
It's going to be a big one.
Really a big one. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you, Peter. Yes, indeed. The entire world reacting in shock to the news that almost 300 girls were kidnapped in Nigeria and threatened now to be sold into slavery. People are shocked, but what can we really do about what's the latest? Emma Roller's been reporting on this for the National Journal, staff correspondent, joining us on our news line this morning. Hi, Emma. Thanks for your time this morning.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So what is, just in terms of the situation down there, what is the latest that we know about the whereabouts or the health or whatever well-being of these girls? Any idea?
Sure. Well, this is just a terrible story. I'll just give you a little background. As you said, about 3 weeks ago, members of this terrorist group called Boko Haram broke into this girls' school in northeastern Nigeria at midnight, shot at the guards, and abducted 276 girls aged 16 to 18. They loaded them up into trucks, drove them off into the forest, which was nearby, and basically no one has seen them since. So unfortunately, we don't really know their whereabouts or the state of their health or anything.
I mean, I guess Nigeria is basically anarchy, right? So that it just for that many people to disappear, right? Inside, do we think they're still inside the country?
Right. Well, this is one aspect that people have been reacting to. It would be unthinkable if something like this were to happen in the U.S. If 276 girls, went missing from a Chicago school. But yet the international reaction to this story was pretty slow, and some critics have said that that's because this story is coming out of Nigeria and not, the U.S. or one of our neighbors.
So the United States is now sending a team to assist the Nigerian government. Is that team on site now, and who are they, and what can they possibly do?
Right. So the U.S. has said that it's going to lend military personnel, intelligence, and hostage negotiators to help the Nigerian government locate the girls. And because this situation is so sensitive, I don't think that they're releasing much information about the status of the negotiations, because Boko Haram, the terrorist group, has a history of extreme violence. Even just this week, a few days ago, the group reportedly killed 300 people in a Nigerian village. And on Monday night, the group allegedly abducted 8 more girls, aged 12 to 15. And they're pretty brazen. The group's leader, I'm sure I'm not getting his name right, but Abu Bakr Shakau
sounds good to me.
Video, released this video, and I'll tell you just a little bit of what he says. He says, "I abducted your girls. Just because I took some little girls who were in Western education, everybody is making noise. Let me tell you, I took the girls. I repeat, I took the girls, and I will sell them off. There's a market for selling girls."
What do we know about? I mean, has this group been on our radar before, Boko Haram?
So it's. I'll tell you a little bit about the group. It was formed in 2002. They have ties to Al Qaeda, but they're mostly in the region of Nigeria and the bordering state Cameroon. Their name literally translates to "Western education is a sin," so that gives you sort of a clue as to why they are targeting these girls who are in these Christian schools. And since 2002, it's estimated that the group has killed 10,000 people in the region, which seems crazy that, I'm a reporter and I only heard about this group for the first time like a few weeks ago.
Right. I've seen some articles where there are even terrorist groups in the Middle East and in Africa, in the region, who have said, no, this goes too far. I mean, they're giving us a bad name, right? I mean, some of the Al Qaeda groups have said, yeah, right. So I mean, they've been roundly condemned again, even by some terrorist organizations. You mentioned we have a U.S. team down there. I know this sounds bizarre, but could we possibly? How about a drone, or maybe a couple of drones? If we can track down terrorists in Pakistan, why can't we put a drone down there and find out where these girls are? I don't know.
I don't know if that's something that's been floated by the White House, but I mean, that's an interesting thought.
Use a drone for a good purpose for once, right?
Right. And you're totally right that this is a very extremist group. They've said that they want to make Nigeria a fundamentalist state with Sharia law. Obviously, they've said they don't believe that girls or anyone should be in Western education. And it's especially difficult in Nigeria because the northern half of the state where the abduction took place is mostly Muslim, while the southern part of the state is mostly Christian.
Are there there are no negotiations going on now with the Boko Haram, right? That we know of.
I honestly cannot tell you. I think they're keeping it very hush-hush at the moment. What I would say is, if I can speculate, is I don't think they're going to
tune in Monday for an old.
What was that?
Sorry, sound good there. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Okay, are you there, Emma?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, we just had a little interruption there. I'm sorry. You were saying so. This whole situation, it is so frustrating. And I see that a lot of people around the world, right, are tweeting, bring back our girls, right?
Right.
What good does that do? I mean, that's a nice thought, but like, what good does it do to send a tweet? Any?
Right. That's a good question, and that's something that many people have been asking online. So there has been a lot of activism online internationally since this story finally got rolling. There's a change.org petition that has more than 800,000 signatures calling, for intervention in this, and the hashtag you mentioned, Bring Back Our Girls, has become very popular. Both Michelle Obama and Hillary Clinton have sent out messages using the hashtag. But that is an interesting question. I don't know if you remember, but back in 2012, there was this social media campaign called Kony 2012 against the Ugandan military leader, Joseph Kony, who had all these child soldiers. And people really question whether that did any good because, this guy, Joseph Kony, remains free. And some people call this sort of Twitter activism, slacktivism.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
But yeah.
That's what I was wondering because I mean, it's sort of today's brand of activism, right?
Right.
Gee, I sent a tweet, and I did everything I could to get those girls back, right? On the other hand, we probably would not be talking about it today if people hadn't started tweeting about it, right? And that so. I can see both ways, but I certainly think we got to do more than just tweet. And I'm glad the United States. And final question: are any other are we the only ones kind of reacting this way? I mean, has there been any reaction on the part of our allies in Europe or in other parts of the world? Are other governments?
It's definitely being internationally condemned. I haven't seen other countries offering up explicit military support, but definitely our allies are roundly condemning the action.
Yeah, you just have to believe that they could find these girls and rescue them and get them back to their families and their communities. On the other hand, we still haven't found that damn plane, so who knows? But Emma, you've been following this so closely. I really appreciate your time this morning and all of your information and bringing us up to date. Thanks so much.
Sure. Thank you so much.
National Journal, great publication with all of its many publications, Hotline and The Atlantic and the National Journal itself. nationaljournal.com, Emma Roller.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You make it sound very easy to take these 90-degree turns in your career. You went from engineering to law. But there's an awful lot of people at that age who feel they're on a track, they've invested time in learning a career, and they need to see it through to the end, or maybe their parents are pushing them to stay in one route. What is your advice for a young person?
Stay away from your parents.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
My mom is a pretty spectacular human being. We essentially came to the United States as refugees. And that is when I really got to understand who my mom was as a person. Being a refugee in a foreign country, you would think that it would affect you so much. It was like my mom, nothing changed for my mom. What was really at her core and her center was always being with her kids and getting to spend time with them and making sure that they were okay and making sure that they could still go out and play soccer. I knew that if my goal was to go to Liberia and to work on economic justice so that, kids could go to school and have access to a doctor if they have malaria, that if I bet on their moms, we win.
I think I just come from a lineage of kick-ass women is all I can say. My grandmother came to this country from Mexico as a single mom with 5 children. And I, have an amazing mother who had 3 children was going to school, working full time. I mean, almost my story. But she did that and got her bachelor's degree at 40. And so I had a great role model. When I came home and told my mom I was pregnant, her response to me wasn't, your life is over. Her response to me is, well, I want a plan. You need to, let me know what you're going to do about this because you're now responsible for somebody else.
I was the first one in my family to go to college, and my parents were very proud of it. They both had to work. My mom in a factory and my dad in the supermarket, and I was their success story. However, on graduation day, they said, are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be an engineer? You're going to be a businessman? What are you going to, lawyer? I said, I'm going to join the Peace Corps. And they said, what? My parents were very much opposed to this, and it was very difficult.
How much pressure did they put on you?
Tremendous pressure. Up until we were leaving from O'Hare Airport for me to go to Peru, my mother questioning me, like, where is Peru? You've never been out of the country. What do you know? Do they have doctors? Do they speak English there? What are you going to eat? You like my cooking? I said, Mom, I'm going to be a pioneer. Why do you always have to be the pioneer? Let them do it. Let them come back, and then you go. I said, no, I want to be the first to go.
I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, so there was a lot of gang activity, and one of my friends actually was murdered on a basketball court. One 15-year-old child shot him in the back of the head. And I was just hopeless. And my mom actually, she brought me to a place of empathy for the kids who were involved in actually murdering him. Because my mom sort of said, look, where do you think those kids are coming from? And then she said, so if you're angry about it, do something. Actually change the way this world works.
This is the Bill Press Show.
On a Friday morning, May 9, the Bill Press Show, here from our nation's capital to you on your local progressive talk radio station on Free Speech TV and on our worldwide video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. President Obama continues his little fundraising tour in California. Fundraisers in Los Angeles, in San Diego, in San Jose. The last night he gave, he was at a big fundraiser in San Jose, but two of them, one at a private residence and the other was kind of a big political rally. But there was a protester there, not an anti-Obama, but he just wanted Obama to talk about something that the president hadn't quite got around to yet. Here's how that exchange started.
We've got to seize it. And if we do, then I guarantee you, I agree with you, although why don't I talk about it later, because I'm just about to finish.
Give me a chance to finish and then we'll talk about that, right? And then the president admits afterwards, well, he threw me a little bit off my mojo here.
You kind of screwed up my ending, but that's okay. That's okay. And we've got free speech in this country, which is great too.
So I had a little fun with the protester last night. By the way, on the administrative front, the other thing yesterday is that the president's pick to replace Kathleen Sebelius as the new Secretary of HHS, Sylvia Matthews Burwell, appeared at her confirmation hearing in the Senate, and she was surprisingly very warmly received. Everybody thought whoever was picked to head Obamacare would be pummeled, but she, Democrats, not only liked by Democrats, but John McCain and Richard Burr from North Carolina, both Republicans, said they were going to vote for her.
To change the pace.
To change the pace, because they think she is competent, she has a good job. They also know Obamacare is here to stay.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I talk to undergraduates and graduate students who are desperate to go out and start something and build something and be the one to come up with that silver bullet solution. And I just want to say, slow down.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
Most of the people you're talking to who want to come into the social change space, are they prepared?
If you're early in your career, there's a couple of really important things to do. The first one is just to shut the hell up and don't talk for about 5 years and work really, really hard. The only way you're going to be given more difficult things to do is by solving the ones you're already given. And if you're somebody who's always complaining or wants to be promoted above where they really are, you can't learn enough to start to take on a greater pool of responsibilities.
Advice you would give a person coming out of college is go work for other people, make your mistakes on their dime.
That sounds like me, absolutely.
It does sound like you.
And you know who that came from is one of my board members, Eric Buttline. Eric had seen me start a few companies as a young kid. I mean, I started my first real company when I was 16. And Eric said, "Chid, do me a favor. I know you have this thing in your head that you think you're this great entrepreneur, but like go work for somebody for a little while and just learn how things are supposed to be done. And when you're done with that, let's have another conversation about, you know, your next venture."
And I think another thing to remember, and this is something that I've really only learned in the past couple of years, is that although the problems are urgent and so important for us to address, I need to have more patience. I'm not going to solve those problems on my own. You're not going to solve those problems on your own. I'm an apprentice in all of this. You know, I'm an apprentice in life. I'm an apprentice in problem solving. I'm not going to change the world until I'm at least 65. That's my goal at this point.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org to let us know your thoughts.
Tune into the Thom Hartmann Program, a live broadcast featuring the nation's #1 progressive talk show host. Phones open at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Free Speech TV.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour. Indeed, here we go. The Bill Press Show coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. And brought to you today by the American Federation of Government Employees, the AFGE, the good men and women, federal employees, all of AFGE, under President J. David Cox. Proud to work for America every day. And for more information, you can visit their website. We invite you to do so at afge.org. They did it yesterday, made it official. John Boehner called for it. The House of Representatives, no surprise, approved a special committee to investigate what happened in Benghazi. Where do we go with this now? Sabrina Siddiqui covers the Hill. You know her well because she's one of our favorite guests here on the Bill Press Show from Huffington Post. And last time I was on a little vacation, she actually sat in this chair. Now she's across from us. I know all of you rave reviews about Sabrina Siddiqui, so she'll be back, and I'll take more time off. Hello, Sabrina.
Hello, thanks so much. How are
nice
you?
to see you. Everything good?
Yes, everything's great. As long as the weather stays a little warmer, I'm happy.
Yeah, and the house has been back for 2 weeks, and they're so tired they have to take another week off next week, right?
They do.
Now, what is this for? This is...
The recess?
Yeah.
I don't even know anymore. I just assume it's just a regularly scheduled recess because they feel like they've done a bit of Benghazi, a bit of IRS, a bit of Obamacare. A week's work is done.
But so they take next week, but the week after that is Memorial Day weekend.
Yes.
So this is not the Memorial Day break. I guess this is the pre-Memorial Day break.
Yes, it's the pre-game.
You can't just jump into a Memorial Day break. You got to take a little break before you take that break.
Yeah.
Because that's just too much. You get break shock.
I think that's,
You got to ease into that break.
All right. Yeah.
After they eased out of the 2-week Easter recess.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
You know.
So anybody who says that this Congress doesn't get anything done, they're wrong. I mean, no, they may not get anything done on minimum wage, nothing done on jobs, nothing done on unemployment insurance, nothing done on immigration reform, nothing done on climate change. But damn it, they did something yesterday. They voted 232 to 186 to create a special committee authorized to spend all the money necessary to get to the bottom of Benghazi. Why do we need another committee on Benghazi?
Because politics. I always say, I mean, this has been completely politicized right from day one. It never really was a thorough investigation, at least from the Republican perspective, into what happened and why it happened.
But they were in charge. I mean, so they're admitting that they blew it? I mean, they've had 13 hearings. When you say there's never been a thorough investigation, what was Darrell Issa doing?
Exactly. And that's where I think people keep saying the questions that Trey Gowdy, the Republican from South Carolina who's leading the committee, wants answered have already been answered. He wants to know why security was lacking on that night. That's already been addressed. Christopher Stevens, ambassador, had denied a couple of offers for increased security leading up to the attacks. Yes, there were some security requests that were denied previously. The State Department already admitted to some high-level errors in its own report. He also wants to know about the talking points. They've been obsessed with these talking points.
Just on that point, is that there was an investigation conducted by Admiral Mike Mullen, former head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who really came down on the lack of security and the lack of preparation for all of that. And I think there are like 29 recommendations they made to the State Department, and the State Department basically said, "You're right. We screwed up." Right. So, I mean, what more can they find on that? I just want to point out, Mike Mullen has identified those things, recognized those failings, and called the State Department out on it. So,
and they've said, repeatedly, I think the administration, including the State Department, that of course there are things that could have been handled better, and they will now look and evaluate how things could be improved going forward, as well as who should be held accountable in the State Department.
Right.
There were people who were held accountable in the State Department, but hey, you know what? They're fundraising off of it. So when you ask why they're doing it, it's so that they can, it's almost like a get out the vote initiative. It's a midterm off your election. This is such a rallying cry for conservatives. Why are they suddenly starting another investigation with a select committee? Because then the NRCC can send out the emails that it's
which they already have, inviting people to become I love it, Benghazi watchdog.
A Benghazi watchdog. And John Boehner declined to tell them to stop yesterday. He was asked 3 times in a row, but should the NRCC be fundraising off this? Because Trey Gowdy, your own lawmaker who's leading this, said, no, don't stop doing that. Don't fundraise off of it, because they lose credibility then. Mm-hmm. But, Boehner kept saying, our goal is to get the truth out there, which is his way of just saying, carry on.
He also said, he also said this is going to transcend politics. But then again, he refuses to condemn the fundraising off the which they're doing, not just the NRCC, but other groups and other candidates around the country. Right. All right. So then the big question is that we've been talking about this morning is, what do Democrats do? The first approach was to say, all right, if we're going to have this damn committee, then it ought to be like an ethics committee, an equal number of Republicans, equal number of Democrats. They both have to agree if they're going to subpoena anybody. The way the ethics committee works, John Boehner rejected that. So now there are two schools of thought among the Democrats: either appoint people to this committee or boycott the committee.
I think the option.
What do you hear?
The latest option that was floated has it comes via a letter that Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro from Connecticut sent to her colleagues yesterday, and the idea is to appoint just one Democrat to the committee. So it's still giving them the opportunity to keep an eye on things, and still make sure that they are aware of what's happening within this investigation. Sort of have their own watchdog on the committee, but then also in practice boycott it, because you're just saying, well, we're going to have one person, and that person will be our eyes in the room, and that's it. We don't want to participate in this any further than that.
That's not a bad approach. It's Saturday night at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Congresswoman Donna Edwards was one of our guests. I discussed this with her. She said right away, don't appoint anybody to that committee. She said, that's what I've told Nancy. Nancy Pelosi, of course, Democratic leader. James Clyburn, Congressman James Clyburn, South Carolina, was sitting right where you are 2 days ago. He said, I've told the leader 3 times already. He said, as recently as late last night, don't point anybody to this committee. In his now famous phrase, he said, I will not bring a noose to my own hanging. So she's getting pressure from both sides.
I think the one appointee option at least might appease both sides. It is difficult for them to boycott it. But.
It's not a bad approach.
That's not bad. No.
You certainly that accomplishes the mission of branding this as a Republican kangaroo court. Whatever. Yeah. But you got one guy there who could ask questions. One person, man or woman, right, could ask questions and make some points. Yeah.
I like that idea.
And you need somebody really strong there.
That's what I'm trying to think of who.
Well, Rosa DeLauro wouldn't be bad.
Yeah.
She hasn't taken any nonsense.
Yeah, and
or Elijah Cummings.
I was going to say, we could very well go with Elijah Cummings. And then I'm sure that they'll figure it out very quickly. They have limited time, of course, to determine what their strategy is going to be. But they do have to kind of tread this fine line of making sure that this is not just a complete opportunity for Republicans to ask such tailored questions and come out with such manipulated answers that they will then mislead the public with, and sections of the media that like to go along with it, but also not really be part of it.
And do you have any doubt that the first person they'll call to testify is Hillary Clinton?
No doubt in my mind. This is what this is also really about. So there's two, we talked about why are they doing this. There's the politics of 2014 and the fundraising, and the fact that the NRCC, which is tasked with electing Republicans to the House, is the key group fundraising off of it. And then there's Hillary Clinton running for president, as we've all acknowledged is happening, even if she will not. And they don't have a lot of sort of gaping holes they've been able to come up with in her record. They are very concerned that she's been accepted not just among Democrats, but almost nationally as an inevitable candidate, if not front runner, for president. So looking through her record, the State Department, they think this is where they have an opening to say, what was she doing? Where was she, and why did she allow this to happen? So let's keep this alive for as long as we can. That's why they keep talking about this false stand-down order that she supposedly gave to Leon Panetta to have troops go in to help those who were
down.
Stand down. And then even Chris Wallace from the liberal Fox News had questioned Darrell Issa on his program and said, there's no evidence that happened. Why are you still going on about this. And Buck McKeon, another Republican who sits on a committee in the House, also said, we have no evidence that happened. Our investigation has not turned that up.
Isn't he the chair of Armed Services?
He's the chair of Armed Services.
And so the Armed Services Committee also did its investigation of this, and they came to the conclusion that there was no no failing on the part of the U.S. military, nothing the U.S. military could have done. And when John Boehner originally said, we're going to form this select committee, which he resisted for a while, but the Tea Party wanted this, right? Buck McKeon said, I don't think we need another committee. We've investigated this and found out there was nothing there. It's Buck McKeon, the Republican head of the Armed Services Committee.
That underscores just how political it is. And there's scores of Republicans who've and a number of conservative columnists have written about this too and said it's time for Republicans to move on from Benghazi. But they won't. I mean, they truly they won't until throughout Hillary's candidacy. I mean, the RNC was already running some ads. When that documentary was being floated for CNN and NBC on Hillary, they were floating Benghazi ads on the internet.
Right.
The ads that they never ran in 2012. So we know this is the number one, I think, source of weakness they see on Hillary's part. So
if you like Benghazi, you're going to hear more about it for the next 2 years. Maybe by that time. This is not going to go away. Looks like maybe they moved away from Obamacare, but not from Benghazi.
For now.
Right. Sabrina Siddiqui here with us from Huffington Post. And what about on the energy front? Is that hold any prospect for some bipartisan solution? Lots more to talk about, and your call's always welcome. What do you think of this crazy Benghazi special panel? What should Democrats do? 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey friends, Mother's Day coming up May 11th.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
on your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
11 minutes before the top of the hour. In the next hour, John Nichols from The Nation magazine. And then Greg Engert, our beer meister from Bluejacket and Churchkey, is going to be here in studio with us.
Drinking beer next hour.
Drinking beer next hour at 8:30 on a Friday morning.
Why am I here now?
Sorry, Sabrina. Sorry, Sabrina.
You can hang around.
You had tacos when you were
Okay, but last time I came here, you guys were about to have wine and cheese.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
And we tossed you out before we did the wine and cheese tasting?
Yes, cheese is my favorite food.
Well, we might save you a beer.
Might.
Spoiler alert, we're not going to save you a beer.
All right.
Well, I've been to Bluejacket, and it's great.
All right. So, President Obama is giving a speech to talk today in San Jose at a Walmart about energy efficiency and renewable energy and energy policy. In the Senate, there is an energy efficiency bill that's been around and has bipartisan support. Tell us about it.
It's the Jean Shaheen Rob Portman energy efficiency bill, known as Shaheen Portman. And I think my colleague Kate Shepard, who's our energy reporter, she and I have been writing about it a bit, and we call it like the little energy efficiency bill that couldn't. It just keeps trying. Everyone loves it. Harry Reid and Mitch McConnell both say it's a great bill. It's got more than 14 co-sponsors, 7 from each side. And it's been in limbo for like a year and a half now. But every time they come close to a vote, people, often Republicans, want unrelated amendments attached to it. Once it was the delay of Obamacare. Now it's Keystone, which red state Democrats, 11 Democrats have said they would support a vote that would force the approval of Keystone, which the president, as we know, would veto.
Right.
But Democrats have said, you know what, it doesn't have to happen within this bill, because Harry Reid has pledged that he will give it a standalone vote by May 22nd. That was his offer. Help us push through energy efficiency bill since you support it anyway. That was his message to Mitch McConnell, and we'll vote on Keystone on its own. But Mitch McConnell said, no, we want to vote on up to 5 amendments, including Keystone, and those other amendments are things like blocking EPA regulations and helping the coal industry, which are not really energy amendments. I mean, that's a Republican version of energy amendments. But the thing is that
they're certainly not energy efficiency
They're not energy
amendments.
efficiency amendments. This bill is supposed to create 190,000 jobs and save more than $60 billion by 2030 or 2033. That's the projection in terms of people's bills, energy bills every year, because it incorporates energy efficiency standards in commercial buildings and households without making them mandatory. So that whole, Michelle Bachmann war on light bulbs or Marsha Blackburn war on ceiling fans, that's what they had complained about, the administration regulating what kind of ceiling fans you should have and light bulbs and all that kind. It's not mandatory, but it improves efficiency standards. So it's just non-controversial. And now the irony of saying that amendments are needed is that they've incorporated more than 10 bipartisan amendments already. Like in this whole process since it was introduced, they worked really hard with everyone from conservative to red state Democrats to moderate to conservative Republicans to try and appease them.
Well, they've taken every opportunity they can to try to attach a Keystone Amendment to anything. I mean, I think with the debt ceiling negotiations they were talking.
Oh, yeah. Keystone was part of the shutdown and the debt ceiling negotiations.
Right. Yeah.
And the president will veto it anyway. But the Mary Landrys of the world have a way out. Mary Landry yesterday said, we could vote on Keystone if Mitch McConnell just lets us. So the takeaway is, well, Harry Reid offered him a vote. He rejected it because he's insisting on having it his way.
All right. Quickly, just about 30 seconds. The big debate this week over the Women's Museum on the mall. I mean, there's something that's got some bipartisan support, too, and it did get passed, right?
It did. Michelle Bachmann, though, was railing against it because she thinks it's going to be this pro-abortion memorial, although she's honored as part of it. In its online section, there's like a motherhood exhibit, and she said she's proud to be honored, but this bill, the bill that would establish this, according to her, is just going to be a celebration of the pro-choice movement and Planned Parenthood and whatnot.
But when you can get Marsha Blackburn and Carolyn Maloney together on a piece of legislation, then nobody's paying attention to Michelle Bachmann in that case. Hey, Sabrina, so great to see you.
So great
Thanks
to see
for coming
you too.
in.
Thanks
All right.
for having me.
Just quick thing.
Yeah?
Just have to mention this. Happy birthday.
No.
It's the 9th birthday of the Huffington Post.
It is?
Oh, I was going to say, it's not
you
my birthday.
personally, but
That's the
the
other
Post.
Sabrina Siddiqui's
All right.
birthday.
The Huffington Post.
It is our
Huffington
9th
Post
birthday
is
today.
9 years old today.
Wow. Ariana and all of our good friends at Huffington
saw
Post
that.
and Sabrina, happy birthday, happy birthday.
Thank
We'll be right
you.
back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
How about it on a Friday morning? We have one more hour to go. Very excited about that because some good stuff coming up. And, we're going to lose you on Free Speech TV. But please jump over, stay with the show. Keep watching on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Be here for John Nichols from The Nation magazine joining us. And then we're going to take a look at spring and summer. What beers should you be sure to stock up with? A beer fest here in hour number 3 coming up.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime. I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live.
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas.
I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
President Obama still on the West Coast. He'll be coming back to the White House tonight. But first, a big speech on energy, and particularly on solar energy this morning at a Walmart in Mountain View, California, where Walmart gets 25% of its energy from solar energy. The president, that speech this morning, and again on Air Force One, arriving back at the White House at 6:35 this evening.
This is the Bill Press Show.
a Piston fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption, they lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got, a lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. Not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself, blood pressure, or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor is allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I haven't opened the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100 and I'm 81 years old and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for.
I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough, they adapt, but only can do so much when your politicians ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not gonna let Detroit be erased, bulldozed, or whatever. We're gonna fight to the bitter end. Detroit gonna survive.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Kid. And brought to you by
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
President Obama talking solar energy today at a Walmart. Well, they probably sell solar panels there. Sell everything else. Hey, good morning, everybody. What do you say? Friday, May 9. So good to see you today. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Bill Press Show. Coming to you live everywhere in this great land of ours on your local progressive talk radio station. And coming to you live worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV, TawkrTV. Hello, Tokyo. We're everywhere. YouTube.com/TawkrTV. Great to see you this morning. The whole team is here. Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy. Hello, guys.
Sure. Happy Friday. Good morning. Friday.
Ready for the weekend. Alicia Cruz is here to take your phone calls at 866-55-PRESS. And Cyprian Bolding has got the cameras and the lights on, keeping us looking good on the video stream. And we have to say, to start the hour, a big happy birthday to Billy Joel, still performing. Not my favorite, but still out there.
No, I think he's one of the most overrated performers.
Are you serious?
Who ever lived.
Yeah, I agree. But
I can't stand him.
But he's packing them in at Madison Square Garden.
Look, he's very popular.
Yeah, he is. That's why I don't like him, I think, because he's popular.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, he's packing them in at Madison Square Garden, and today is his 65th birthday. Back about in 1995, he gave an interview back then in Germany, and they asked him about, aren't you getting old?
A lot of people are worried about getting older, and you have to consider the alternative.
That's a fair point.
That's a good way of putting it.
That's a fair point.
No matter what age you are, it's better than the alternative, right? Yeah. Think of that on your next birthday.
That's right.
All right. Hey, lots coming up. Our good friend John Nichols from The Nation magazine, Washington correspondent for The Nation, will join us here at the top of the hour. And then at the half, the Beer Fest, Greg Engert from Bluejacket and Churchkey here in Washington, D.C. will be in with the best season's beers. And, of course, we'll have to sample them.
Yeah, twist my arm.
But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Apple is about to get a little bit louder. Rumors are surfacing that they are planning on buying the Dr. Dre Beats headphones brand for $3.2 billion. It was founded with Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine, the record guy from so long ago. They have said that when Apple put out their iPods, they just put out the flimsy white headphones, and that they needed to up that, so they have these bigger, more heavy-duty, louder headphones, and Apple wants a piece of that. So $3.2 billion is the rumored deal. We'll see if that goes through, but that's going to be a huge deal for Apple and Dre.
Yeah. One more thing is your Apple Store.
That's it. Burgers for breakfast. That is the great idea from Burger King to compete with the new changing breakfast menu of other fast food giants. Taco Bell has their waffle tacos. McDonald's is pushing their McGriddles heavier than ever. So now Burger King is rolling out their burgers at breakfast menu. They're going to be featuring select lunch and dinner burgers before the 10 or 10:30 rule, which is the sort of accepted cutoff time.
So these are not like breakfast sandwiches. These are...
No, they're going to be just legitimate
burgers.
No, not with an egg or with a maple syrup.
Yeah,
It's just a burger. And so they're going to be rolling those out. So get ready for them if you want a big old fast food
The next time I go to Burger King for breakfast, I'll have to have one.
Yeah. And congratulations to the University of South Carolina's Jadeveon Clowney. He was selected in the NFL draft as the number 1 pick by the Houston Texans. Defensive juggernaut. Johnny Manziel, Heisman Trophy winner. Johnny Football.
They thought he was going to be number 1.
They thought he may go number 1. He didn't go number 1. He didn't go number 2. He didn't go number 3. He went 22nd to the Cleveland Browns, and he was not happy about going to the Cleveland Browns, by the way. He had to sit there, and they had the camera on him the whole time, and every time that they called somebody else's name, he looked more and more upset. So
trying not to cry.
Blake Bortles from the University of Central Florida is the earliest quarterback drafted. He was drafted number 3 by the Jacksonville Jaguars.
All right. There we go. Thank you, Peter. But I'll tell you, when I put together my team of the outstanding progressive journalists and thinkers in this country, my number 1 pick joins us on our news line this morning. John Nichols, Washington correspondent for The Nation magazine, number 1 in my book. Hello, John. Good morning.
Well, Bill, you're number 1 in my book, but I don't believe you, man, because you didn't invite me in for Beer Fest.
Oh, listen, as if...
Kind of hurting here.
Wait a minute. As if you can't find a good beer in Madison, Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's right.
I got to go to Milwaukee. Come on, let's be... Madison has some very good ones.
Drink
Milwaukee,
Wisconsibly is the T-shirt that I've seen. Drink Wisconsibly.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. I haven't seen that. Hey, John, good to talk to you. It's been too long. So, boy,
it has been. Yeah.
So much to talk about, but I do have to ask you, can you enlighten us on what's going on with this judge in Wisconsin? And there was an investigation into this Republican fundraising, and he shot it down. I mean, what's the story here?
You don't have enough time, Bill,
Okay.
to take you through the whole thing.
Yeah, but give us a headline, right, I guess.
If you would imagine the judicial system as a roller coaster,
Mm-hmm.
that's it.
Really?
Rudolph Randa, who is a very conservative federal judge, who took this case regarding a John Doe investigation into potential collaboration between Scott Walker and Scott Walker's campaign and supposedly independent political groupings or issue advocacy groupings. This notion that they blurred the lines, which you're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
So there's a big investigation. It's very complex stuff. Some of the subjects of the investigation sued and said, we think this is going against McCutcheon. We think this is going against Citizens United. We think this is harming our free speech rights, to be investigated. And this judge agreed with them. He shut the whole thing down.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I read that.
No, it gets better, Bill. Oh, my gosh, it gets better. He said, and you have to return all the documents you collected in this investigation. You have to destroy your copies of those documents. I mean, it was just this sweeping thing, right? So then so this is all headlines and everything. Yeah. The next day, the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals, the next court up, takes the case, and in a decision that included Judge Easterbrook, one of the most conservative judges on the Federal Appeals Court, shot down Judge Randa's ruling, said, you can't do that.
Oh.
Right?
Uh-huh.
And then the next morning, Judge Randa came back, changed his decision a little bit, and then put it back through.
No.
And yesterday closed out with revelations that one of Judge Randa's aides legal aids, is married to a lawyer who is associated with some of the Walker cases, and so then there were people yelling conflict, and it's just yeah.
All right.
It's wild.
Well, I guess to be continued is the end of that story. Now, you and I are both great fans of Senator Bernie Sanders, and he's been on our show, talked about some of the issues that he thinks are important and somebody has to raise in the presidential contest of 2016. And he told us, as he's told you, and you've written about this, that he'd be willing to be the one to raise those issues if nobody else does. I thought of him yesterday when I saw that the Koch brothers plan to spend $125 million this year alone, right, on backing up Republican candidates. And this is one of the things that Senator Sanders has been talking about, right? All this money in politics.
That's exactly right. In fact, this week, one of the most remarkable things to happen in, I think, contemporary American politics occurred when Janet Yellen, the new head of the Federal Reserve, came before the Congressional Oversight Committee that she has to report to. Bernie Sanders has for many years been on that committee. He is one of these folks who really keeps an eye on the Federal Reserve and what it does, what it should do. And interestingly enough, has many conservative allies who they don't agree with him on the ideology, but they agree with that oversight. So Bernie was there, and when Janet Yellen came in, Senator Sanders said to her, look, we've got all these new reports out showing that ordinary people are barely heard in our politics, that the wealthy using their money have overwhelming influence, not just in elections, but in governance. He went through all sorts of statistics, details, and then he said to her, do you think that we have become essentially an oligarchy form of government? And the interesting thing was Janet Yellen didn't say, no, of course not. She said, the issues you raise are very worrisome to me as well. They are issues that policymakers should be thinking about and addressing. It was a fascinating, dramatically undercovered moment in American politics. We actually had a discussion in the U.S. Senate between a senior senator and the head of the Fed about whether we're an oligarchy, whether democracy itself has collapsed.
You know, I haven't heard that. I saw your story in The Nation. I haven't heard that or seen that reported anywhere else. But that is really huge. And as you report, Senator Sanders pointed out, the top 1% today own 38% of the financial wealth of America, right? The Koch brothers, their wealth increased by $12 billion last year. So you've got the Koch brothers, and you got Foster Friess, and you've got Sheldon Adelson. That's a very, very good question. Have we become an oligarchy?
This is the interesting thing about it is that Sanders then put it in the context of questions about tax policy, estate tax policy, wage increases, minimum wage increases. By the way, that $125 million the Kochs are talking about spending with their allies, one of their targets is to stop increases in the minimum wage. And so Sanders asked Yellen about all these things, and I thought that was the powerful moment because it wasn't just using the rhetoric, it wasn't just using the word oligarchy. It was detailing the policy decision.
Right.
It's a big deal. I think this is a rare moment in politics, and it's emblematic of what Senator Sanders is trying to do. You know, a lot of people focus on the prospect that he might run for president. He's very blunt about, he's out talking to people. He's trying to figure out what people think about that. But he is using his platform in much the same way Elizabeth Warren does to focus on what are sometimes seen as complex, but are always significant economic issues. And so it's very interesting what Sanders has done.
Right.
And it's very interesting the response because, again, underreported, but there's a great big draft Bernie Sanders for president movement going on in Iowa right now. They're literally meeting. Sanders is going to go to Iowa next week. Tonight, I'm up in Northampton, Massachusetts, and Sanders is going to come up and do a town meeting. I'm going to interview him and ask him questions about a lot of stuff, and then people from the community are going to ask questions. The pre-sign-up are already through the roof.
Is that right?
Even if our media fails to cover this issue.
So Massachusetts, next week in Iowa, I know he's been down in North Carolina. Let me ask you this. How important do you believe it is, whether it's Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, that somebody from the left, some strong progressive, some strong populist voice run in 2016?
I think it's absolutely essential. And I would like to tell you that it's essential simply for electing a president, because that is, elections matter and who wins matters. But it is also essential for putting an issue square in the middle of our politics. Income inequality, economic injustice is something that we talk about a lot, and it's clearly alive as an issue with the American people. But we have had too many presidential races in which when we get into the thick of the race, it turns into cheap, boring talking points as opposed to the thick of the matter.
Absolutely.
So I think a populist candidate pushes those issues forward.
And raises issues which, without mentioning anybody else by name, might otherwise not be talked about, right, or discussed in a presidential campaign.
Frederick Douglass said power concedes nothing without a demand. And a populist candidacy throughout the history of this country, that's how demands are made. William Jennings Bryan ran for president in 1896. He put fundamental issues of the Gilded Age on the agenda. Similarly, Robert M. La Follette in 1924 putting fundamental issues forward. Again, politics is at one level about winning, but politics is also about raising issues and forcing a debate. And at the end of the day, I would argue that what William Jennings Bryan did, despite the fact he was never president, was much more transformational for America than anything William McKinley, the guy who beat him, did. So I'm hoping that, I'm hoping we have transformational politics. I'm hoping our politics changes for the better in so many ways. But at the fundamental level, I'm hoping that in 2016, we have a real debate about fundamental issues.
I got to tell you, I want to see Bernie Sanders on stage in those Democratic debates in the primaries of 2016 for sure. Hey, John, have so much fun tonight. I envy you up there. That's going to be a great evening. Give our best.
You would love it.
Give our best to Senator Sanders and people up there, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Bill.
All right, John Nichols, Washington correspondent for The Nation, thenation.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory? Did you take a chance?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Did you commit to change the world?
This is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour, our Friday Beer Fest coming up here in the next half hour. Meanwhile, big decision for Democrats, and that is what to do about this new special committee on Benghazi, which John Boehner, or the House actually voted yesterday to go forward with this committee by a lopsided vote, 242 to 186, I think was the vote. But a few Democrats went along with it, basically as Republicans saying we're going to have this witch hunt. Now, so Democrats have to decide whether or not they're going to participate. The first the first response was on the part of Leader Nancy Pelosi, Democratic leader, suggesting to John Boehner, okay, we don't think this is a good idea to have this panel at all. But if we do, it should be like the ethics panel, not partisan, evenly divided, same number of Democrats, same number of Republicans, instead of what John Boehner had proposed, which was 7 Republicans and 5 Democrats, which means, it's going to be another one like the Darrell Issa committees where he doesn't even let the Democrats speak. But John Boehner said, oh, no, we like it just the way it is.
I think the 7-5 split is eminently fair, frankly fairer than her global warming committee that she set up.
I don't know anything about that, but he did say also that this was going to be above politics. Yeah, above politics, right? Elijah Cummings pointed out they're already raising money, sending out solicitations based on the work of this select committee. Elijah Cummings.
They have been using the deaths of these 4 Americans for political campaign fundraising. I call on the Speaker of the House to end that process right now.
So now the big question is, now that we know at best, right, it would be 7 Republicans, 5 Democrats. Should Democrats put anybody on this committee at all? That's the big debate. Some, like Congressman Henry Waxman, have said, we got to be there to make our point and ask some tough questions. Others, like James Clyburn and Donna Edwards, have said, no way, no how, don't put any Democrats on it, expose it as a Republican kangaroo court circus sideshow, whatever you want to call it. I think Clyburn and Donna Edwards are right. No Democrats on that panel. Beer coming up
is
next.
The Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. nicely done. I want you to just finish the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, here we go, 33 minutes after the hour. Happy Friday, May 9. And you know what Sunday is. Don't forget. Mother's Day. That's right. Let's talk about it. I hope you've done your thing with Pro Flowers or Sherry's Berries. And ready for, do something special for those special ladies in your life on Monday. We are, as promised, going to get into the, Beer Fest here shortly. Waiting for...
You're very excited.
I am waiting for I need one. Waiting for the Beer Meister to arrive. He's very close, but not quite here yet in studio.
Not quite here yet.
So... You know, if you got beer, you have to talk sports.
That's
Peter.
right.
So I'm just going to turn it over to you. The big NFL draft last night.
I had to stay.
I did not stay up to watch it.
I didn't think I was going to stay up and watch it. But I actually did. I stayed up and watched a good chunk of it because
Why should we care?
Well, this is look. All the teams that were terrible during the regular season, they get a chance to now start fresh, get some new players, add some new talent to their list, and there were a lot of really good football players this time around. You know, you had Johnny Manziel from Texas A&M, you had Jadeveon Clowney from University of South Carolina. And there was a real question about who was going to go where and whether or not Manziel had impressed everyone enough to go with the number 1 pick. And so when it came down to it, that's not the way it went down. Here's the Roger Goodell clip, commissioner of the NFL, making the announcement.
With the first pick in the 2014 NFL Draft, the Houston Texans select Jadeveon Clowney, defensive end, South Carolina.
Now, where's this being held?
In Radio City Music Hall.
Radio City, right. So there's a big crowd there.
Huge crowd. And it's great is Goodell walks out, right, and the crowd starts booing. Right? Everybody hates Goodell.
Yeah.
Everybody hates Goodell. They do it with the NBA draft, too. It's just, they just hate the commissioner. And so, you know, look, the Texans, they could use a quarterback. But Clowney is one of the greatest athletes, just from a built like an athlete, right? Like just got this insane, freakish size. So he's a monster. And it's tough to not take him number 1. Now, the big thing was Johnny Manziel. Surely he would go number 2 or number 3. The Jacksonville Jaguars had the number 3 pick, and they picked Blake Bortles from the University of Central Florida, also a quarterback, which that's when people started going, whoa, maybe Manziel didn't impress these scouts as much as he impressed people that were watching him play. That's a big question. Can he go from college football to professional football? It's a totally different game.
Yeah, right.
And clearly there are a lot of questions because Manziel didn't go until 22nd.
Let me ask you this. So could these teams go after these players individually, directly, not waiting for the for the
draft?
For the draft?
No, you got to wait for the draft because that's
why.
Well, because that's when these teams have through a system of lotteries or a system of trades, they have the right to first pick of the draftees, right? People who are available for the draft. After that, all bets are off. So if there's a player that goes through and does not get drafted, then if you have the room, you can go after him. For example, in the first round, and there are several rounds, but last night was the first round, Michael Sam, the football player from Missouri who came out of the closet, he wasn't drafted last night. Now, he could still very easily get drafted in the next couple of rounds, but let's say he doesn't get drafted, and a team wants him, they could then go after him. But you got to wait through the draft because these teams who have had bad records, they're sort of guaranteed the shot at the best possible players.
It just seems to me that this whole draft is a little phony thing that's kind of cooked up as a publicity stunt to get people like you watching.
I think that's a pretty accurate description. I mean, look,
I don't know.
It was so boring. It was so because what they do is they build it up, and then they say, "Okay, Houston Texans, you're on the clock." So then they got to kill 10 minutes, literally, 10 minutes of these guys just talking about what they could do, who are they going to pick, what, and it's painful and it's tortured and it just drags on and on and on, and you have guys giving analysis that just makes your head hurt.
All right. Well, I haven't watched it yet, and remind me not to watch it next year.
Okay.
Okay. Our Beermeister has arrived, so we're going to take a quick break.
Cool.
And come back and belly up to the bar here, and you are invited to do as well. Stay with us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get fire adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more? How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
enough.
Enough. Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act. Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
18 minutes before the top of the hour, well into spring now, and almost summer weather's here, summer temperatures here in Washington the last couple of days, again today. So what do you think about beer and what are the best beers for the season? Greg Engert is the beer director for DC's Neighborhood Restaurant Group, with two great restaurants, Churchkey up on 14th Street and Bluejacket down on the waterfront. Greg is our resident beer meister, and we welcome you back to studio this morning. Hi, Greg.
Thanks.
Nice to see you.
Good morning.
Yeah. Peter Ogburn here with us, who's our he's the consumer representative on the Bill Press team.
I'm very thirsty.
Yeah,
I'm very thirsty.
Good.
You put it that way.
So where you've got a lot to offer here. Where do we start? What's good?
Let's see. I think we'll start with, believe it or not, a Bluejacket beer that I just happened to bring along.
Nice.
For
Cool.
Nice.
So these are your own brews.
Yeah,
then,
so
right?
I brought two different Bluejacket beers that are perfect for the spring and summer weather that's coming, and baseball season, obviously, which is upon us down at National Stadium.
Yep. And you're right near the National Stadium.
Oh yeah, literally
Crazy close.
right there. Which is great. So the first one I'm gonna pour you is a really cool brand new beer. We just released it yesterday.
Oh, nice.
It's called.
Whoa, that's an awful lot. You're
This is
sampling
for me.
it. Oh, that was for
You
Peter.
can do
Okay.
it.
Give
That'll
me
be for
this.
me.
This one
Yeah.
for you.
Come on,
That's
Bill.
fine. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, right. No, because we have all this to go
It's
through
Friday.
here.
Come on.
So
Tell
this
us
one
about
is called Disaster Proof. This is a.
It's disaster proof. Bill could go wrong.
Yeah.
Perfect.
What could go wrong? It's a 4.5% lager. So really crisp and refreshing. We brewed it with a little bit of rye, which gives it a kind of a grainy spice quality. And then we use these beautiful Southern Hemisphere hops from New Zealand. called Wakatu and Wamea, which gives it a little bit of a citric kind of herbaceous note as well. But it's really clean and refreshing.
New Zealand. Whoa.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
And the cool thing is we don't filter any of our beers. So this beer looks like it's been filtered, but actually we just lager the beer, we store the beer cold for about 8 weeks. And over that time, all the sediment just drops out and it becomes really crisp and refreshing.
That's a good baseball beer.
That's
you can sit outside, watch baseball, and drink one of these.
Yeah.
That's
You know what?
exactly
You've got to
thinking.
get a concession in the stadium.
We've talked
on
about
that?
it. Yeah, we have.
You should.
We're just trying to
Because-
keep up with demand at the brewery right now. It's
Really?
been it's been crazy. But
You
but
are
we're looking
online
at
at Bluejacket DC, right?
Yep.
On Twitter at Bluejacket DC.
That's right.
Because I was at the game the other day and I was thinking about you because basically all anybody buys to drink at a ballpark, as long as you're of age, are beers. You know, you look at the
Totally.
coolers, I mean, the whole thing. They're all just beer, and draft and everything.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you should be there.
On a hot summer day, there's nothing like a nice Merlot to sit in the sun and watch baseball.
In a plastic cup.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, the next one we'll do, this one, I mean, we could talk for days about this, what this is called. This is called Justin Blabber.
I want to come back to this one.
Oh, you
I like
want to
that.
move on to
But-
Justin Blabber
So how long will this be like, will you stay with this? I mean,
Great
it's not-
question. So one of the hallmarks of Bluejacket is we rotate our beers all the time. So we're making new beers every day. We have 20 different drafts at all times. But even if this beer goes away, we'll always have something in this category there. We'll always have some kind of crisp, refreshing lager to stand in its stead.
Mm-hmm.
And crisp and refreshing, I think, is what we're looking for with like a spring, summer beer. It's kind of tough.
But still full flavored.
Totally.
Not
I've told you before, I'm basically a wine drinker, but not often a beer drinker. But when I do, this is a kind of beer that I love.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then it is. Yeah.
It is. It's
And you
light.
like
It's
at a baseball
refreshing.
game?
It's
Yeah. Can't
Perfect.
go wrong.
Okay.
All right, so we'll move on. This one is.
I have
so-
my pretzels here too. I want to apologize for chewing into the mic if I do. All right, go ahead.
This is Justin Blabber. So, Evil Twin is the name of this brewing concern. It's my friend Yepa Jarnit Bjergso. He's a Danish guy.
Slow on the pour,
Oh,
dude.
sorry.
I mean, seriously.
You'll be fine.
You'll be fine.
We don't have a spit bucket.
So,
why would you want that?
Wine.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
So this is what we call a Berliner Weiss. So it's a crisp, refreshing, tart wheat beer.
Oh man!
Originated and was popular in Berlin once upon a time. But this one has been dosed with blueberries after the fact, and that's the Flemish for blueberry is Blabber, and so that's why it's Justin Blabber. And then this is Yepa with his face looking like Justin Blabber on the label.
You've had blueberry pancakes, right, for breakfast? Same thing. This translates.
It actually has like that kind of like that true like blueberry fruit
When
tartness.
you were pouring it, it looked like almost a rosé. Back to wine again, but you know that
Oh,
little.
whoa! This is delicious.
This
is really
it's
good.
wine-like too.
It really
You
is.
Actually,
You'll like this.
it. Yeah. It's low ABV
it really
too. I think it's
is,
probably
yeah.
only like 4% alcohol or
Yes,
so.
you can chug it, Bill. Go ahead.
I wouldn't.
4.5%
That's
alcohol.
delicious.
Yeah, it's great.
That's so good.
I wouldn't think of that as a beer.
Yeah. It's more wine-like than it is beer-like. And so in the old days, like in Berlin.
So you don't make this? This is
this is my buddy. But we do make beers like this all the time. One of the big things we do at Bluejacket is making like sour beers that we always have on the menu.
Sour beers.
So we have beers like this on the menu. We typically use like seasonal fruit, so we wouldn't have like blueberry sour right now. But we love doing sour beers as well.
This is better than the party time fruit liquor that I usually drink. This is very good.
So what's interesting though is that in the old days, like in Berlin, Berliner Weiss or Berlin wheat beer, they were so sour that they used to add fruit syrups and juices and things like that to sweeten them out and kind of balance them out. So in many ways, adding fruit to a Berliner Weiss like this is just kind of echoing that.
I love sour beer. I talk to people who just don't like the idea of a beer that's sour and sort of puckers up a little bit, but I love it.
It's definitely become all the rage now. It's coming along.
Is this a sour beer? Would you call it a sour?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
No, I like it too. Yeah.
And it's not. Yeah, and sour is the big term, but I mean it's kind of delicately tart. You know, it's not too crazy.
Totally.
Okay, so I guess we'll do another Bluejacket beer right now.
Cool.
So this is really cool. So one of the other things that we do at Bluejacket incessantly is collaborate with other brewers. And what this means is these brewers will come in and we will concoct a brand new recipe, not just based on what we're thinking or what they're thinking, but basically we find out that like by putting our heads together, we come up with something that neither of us would have considered independently. And so a great friend of ours is a guy named Raphael Mettler, and he's from St. Croix, Switzerland. He has a beautiful brewery there called Trois, and they make fantastic beers that do sometimes get imported into the U.S. So I've been friends with Raphael for a long time. He came over to the States recently, and we brewed this beer together. It's called Lullaby, which is a kind of a Belgian wit beer. So it's wheat based. We added a little coriander, which is typical for the style, but instead of orange peel, we added lemon, and then some lavender wands, just like the tip of the lavender plant.
Oh man!
And then a little black pepper on the finish.
That's really different and really good. When you said wheat beer,
That's amazing. I mean, so do you just stand around and say, let's throw a little coriander in? I mean,
no,
how much of this is just like...
It's not as off the cuff as that. No, but it is definitely, it's very, the sky is the limit. It is wild like that. We have beers with any ingredient you could think of in them. I mean, we just brewed a beer with mesquite malt, mangoes. It's great. But all the time, we always want to integrate these flavors. We're never trying to make them taste like the ingredient, or get too wild and crazy.
I was going to say, I think wheat beers, a lot of ones that are mass produced that I've had sort of lack character. They're just a little watery, but you can tell they're a wheat beer. But there's no. This is like a wheat beer, but you can taste all the things that you mentioned, but they don't taste. It's not spicy like a black pepper or like coriander.
It has just a little bit more flavorful pop to it than typical. It's not just like clean and easy.
Boring,
Yeah, or boring, yeah, exactly.
So you had like just this big kitchen
Do you
or
like
a
this?
laboratory? Not as much as I like the other two.
Okay. We do have, it's a giant brewery. I mean, we source ingredients from all over the world, and we hold them in
but
this.
You also seem to know these brewers from all over the world.
That's been the best. One of the coolest parts about Bluejacket is that it came from all the restaurants that we have. So I've been meeting and tasting and hanging out with these guys for years and girls, and so now they come in. We do an event at Churchkey, and then the next morning we wake up, typically hungover, and then we go and brew at Bluejacket. And it's really fun. I think we have 20 drafts right now. I think probably 7 of them are collaboration beers.
Whoa!
How many can you have going at one time in terms of the? I know you have 20 on draft, but how many can you be brewing? At one time?
So we have 19 fermentation vessels, and then 8 bright tanks. So I mean, they're always full. Damn. They're always full because our lager. I mean, that beer. This is another collaboration. The lager actually, we did it with Great Raft Brewing Company out of Shreveport, Louisiana. That lager had to sit in tank for 8 weeks. So that's just sitting in a tank. Forget about it. You know?
We better get to this last one here.
Okay.
Which has a head on it already.
Oh yeah, it's foaming. This is another wild beer. This is from Ron Jeffries, who is an amazing guy. He runs Jolly Pumpkin.
Oh yeah.
Artisan Ales out of Dexter, Michigan. Every single beer he makes spends some time in oak barrels where it naturally sours. Every beer.
Whoa.
From this is, and so this, I brought this to go as kind of a companion piece to Lullaby, the Bluejacket beer we just had. This is called Calabaza Blanca, and it is also a Belgian wit beer, just kind of like Lullaby, but it's been aged in oak barrels where naturally occurring positive bacteria like lactobacillus and wild yeast like Brettanomyces will continue to ferment this beer, giving it a really nice lactic sharpness.
It's very light beer. I'm just looking at it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There is so much more to beer than people believe or
This
know.
is terrific.
Yeah.
This is terrific. It's a very light beer.
Yeah, as far as what goes into it and the flavors too. Every time I come to see you guys, I always want to bring something that is.
Yeah, I like this. This is nice.
Different.
Yeah, this is
and
very
wine-like.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that.
Isn't that great? Again, also super low in alcohol. I think it's about 4%, 4.5%.
So I have to ask you. You said you were on the Hill yesterday lobbying all day in the Congress.
Yes.
For what?
For the, I'm glad you asked.
I'm sure you can use a couple
This is
drinks now.
on behalf of the Small Brewers Caucus, craft brewers. There's now 2,800 of us in the United States. It's the most amount of breweries ever in the U.S. There were about 40 in the mid 70s, to give you an idea of how far we've come.
Whoa.
And we are lobbying on behalf of something called the Small Beer Act, which is trying to lower the excise taxes on beer for craft brewers. To give us a little bit more money to grow our businesses, dump it back in, and keep growing jobs and keep expanding like we're doing. So that's what we're kind of working on.
No, it's a huge industry now. 2,800, really? That
Yes,
you've got around
and going and keep going.
And think about all those jobs.
That's
think
huge.
about all that. Yeah,
And not even just
the
and the thing-
homegrown products, right?
And the thing I was saying is that like every brewery's at capacity now. It's going to keep getting bigger and bigger, adding more jobs. But also think of our restaurant group, like Churchkey. Churchkey wouldn't exist without these brewers. So it's not just the breweries and those jobs. It's the bars, it's the restaurants, it's the tourism that's happening. And
But yeah,
it's
totally.
the Small Brewers Act.
Small Brewers, Small Brew Act.
Brew Act.
It's got a lot of co-sponsors in the House and in the Senate. The House bill is HR. I think it's HR 949, but I might be wrong on that.
Okay.
So we're trying to push it through.
All right, that's something we can all get behind, or we can all support from a bipartisan point of view. I hope they can get behind it and get that passed. Hey, Greg, thanks so much for coming in. Okay,
thank you.
Hey, folks, it's at Bluejacket DC, and I wish you could be here to sample with us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Racing dot. I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Well, we say goodbye for this week with this news. Mitt Romney says we should raise the minimum wage. Mitt Romney is right. Have a good weekend, everybody.
The Bill Press Show.